So as my net worth grew, I stopped buying a lot of things. And while I'm not mega rich at all, I am doing pretty well. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you guys the most important things that I stopped buying as a multi-millionaire. Hopefully this is gonna help you guys tone down your spending in some of these areas. Let's get started. So the first thing I stopped buying was expensive and luxury clothes. I actually went through a phase earlier when I wanted to look really rich, but I actually wasn't. And the easiest way to do that is by buying designer clothes with big flashy logos. More than 60% of luxury clothes are bought by middle to low income Americans. And if you think about that, it just doesn't make any sense. I think way too many people are consumed on this whole, I wanna look rich, I wanna be flashy and have all these nice things, when in reality, they can't technically afford it. So for me, I have a main wardrobe of quality t-shirts, and then the rest is thrift, fast fashion, and just clothes that I've accumulated over the past decade. I actually really don't like buying clothes. I think it's a big waste of time. And as a result, I'm not buying a lot of new clothes. If you look at the data, the average American family spends $1,700 on clothes annually. The average American also throws away about 81 pounds of clothes each year. And the average piece of clothing is worn 36% fewer times now than it was 15 years ago. For me, I just really emphasize comfort, and that's why I love wearing joggers. I love wearing t-shirts. I love wearing hoodies. Yeah, t-shirt, hoodie, joggers. That's all you need. That's what I call the comfort trifecta. I think it's really important to sort of shift our mindset about why we have the desire to have expensive clothes. It definitely is a status thing. It makes a lot of sense. That's why I really liked luxury clothes back in the day. But I want you guys to ask yourselves, why am I wearing something? Is it more internal or is it more external? I think as you make more money, you care less and less about the external, and you sort of start to value the internal desires that drive our purchasing decisions. So yeah, for me, luxury clothes, that's something I don't view as important, and hence that's why I don't spend my money buying luxury clothes. The main point here is you don't need expensive and luxury clothes. All you need is comfortable clothing that at least looks somewhat good. Next up is really bad or super expensive food. Similar with luxury clothing, I used to view expensive food as sort of a luxury and status symbol. Now, not so much. On the other side of the spectrum, I also know the importance of not eating really bad food. So really, there's a whole scale in the types of food you can eat on a day-to-day basis. On the very left is really crappy foods like McDonald's and processed foods. And on the very right, we have things like the French Laundry, where a single meal can be, close to $1,000 per person. Zooming in on the very left, all this really cheap stuff. These types of foods are all processed in efficient factories. For example, your average $1 box of mac and cheese. It just contains wheat, artificial cheese, and chemical flavors. Slightly to the right, we have places like McDonald's and other fast food. Now, I will say that every day, more than 1 in 3 US adults eat some type of restaurant fast food. It's a really big reason why health is starting to deteriorate in this country. Then you have things like fruit, meats, fish, which are between, let's say, $1 and $10 a pound. The process to get these natural foods processed and then to the store is just much more expensive. And that's why they cost a lot more, especially if you look at it per calorie. Now, if you take a look at some of the data on how much millionaires spend on groceries, you can actually see that they don't spend that much money. About 1/3 of millionaires surveyed spend less than $300 each month on groceries. About 64% spend less than $450, and then less than 1 in 5 millionaires spend more than $600 per month. At the end of the day, net worth doesn't influence your nutritional needs. We're all human. Rich people don't, for example, need more nutrients than people that are more poor. But yeah, for me, I love spending money in this whole section, as well as the next section, which is more affordable restaurants. For example, Chipotle, Boiling Crab, Panera, going out and getting sushi, salads, stuff like that. These all give me a lot of nutrition, plus a lot of happiness per dollar spent. And something that I really personally don't enjoy too much is the very right of the scale, these really expensive restaurants that just cost a lot of money. I get the appeal of, these dining experiences that are extremely fun and memorable, but for me, most of the time, I don't really care about that stuff as much. I care more about, enjoying the food. And for me, good food does not have to be expensive. That's one reason why I'm just obsessed about street food, especially in countries like Asia. For me, I'd rather spend that money on different types of experiences like traveling. And I do take comfort in knowing that I can have a really amazing meal, not spend that much money, and not go broke spending money on food that I can't afford. The next thing I stopped buying was clutter. Clutter sucks, and it doesn't just affect your wallet. It also affects your mental space and your ability to have location freedom. So yeah, I just started making it a priority to buy less useless stuff. And the keyword here is useless. Over the course of a lifetime, we will spend 3,680 hours or 153 days searching for misplaced items. Think about how much wasted time that is. And also, there are about 300,000 items in the average American home, which just saying out loud is crazy. So I found out that as I make more and more money, I actually get less enjoyment from accumulating things. The more you make, the more valuable time is. And when the things that you buy actually reduce the amount of time you can spend on yourself or on things that you love, then that can be a big turnoff. So buy used stuff, buy less frequently. And when you do that, things won't live rent-free in your head. You won't be thinking about all these different things that you have. And I promise you, it's gonna make you a lot less stressed. If you're reliant on things, then you just don't have complete freedom. And yeah, I think this is a priority that I started really, taking seriously. The ability to be free and do what I want. And when things hold you down, then obviously it makes sense to not spend your money buying those things, accumulating those things. Because if you discard that first blip of, wow, I bought something, actually having that item and having it, be in your house is super off-putting. So that's why I stopped buying clutter. The main point here is being controlled by material possessions can hold you back significantly. And in my opinion, it's more about the freedom you have versus the amount of things you own. So another thing I don't spend money on is gaming consoles. I actually grew up really liking some certain games like Guitar Hero, but I was always worried about how much time I was spending on these things. I'm just super glad that I didn't get addicted to them because I know they can be very addictive. As I grew more and more wealthy, I started to realize just how important it was for me to stay away from gaming. It's actually such a big killer of productivity. And so as a result, I have this sort of thing with it where I just can't really do it. I get that people use gaming to sort of de-stress, and that makes a lot of sense. But in that case, it should be a hobby and it should not eat up a big significant portion of your day. I think that with gaming, a lot of people will get really, sucked into it, and they'll spend 2, 4, 6 hours a day playing games. And that to me, you guys, is just very dangerous. And I view it as sort of like staying in your comfort zone. It's comfortable to play games. It's comfortable to, have fun at home and just watch TV. But the more of that you're doing, the less opportunity you have to get out of your comfort zone. And that is where the real gains in your life are made. Even if you look at the data, it shows that video gamers spent about 8 hours and 27 minutes each week playing games in 2021. This also relates to mobile phone games, which can be extremely addicting as well. And on average, Americans spend 2 hours and 54 minutes on their phones each day. And a good portion of that can be on social media, but also playing those games. So yeah, gaming consoles, phone games, these are a big no-no for me. I know that it's not the same for everyone, but rather I'd game outside by working out and doing something that actually involves my body, because then you can have fun while also improving your health. So the next thing that I don't spend money on is an expensive primary residence. The current apartment I live in is about $3,600 per month. That, you guys, is a very small portion of my income. It's a lot less than I could technically afford to spend on rent. I think the point here is to say that you don't need to live in a house that is really expensive, because that's going to stress you out. I choose to live in this small apartment because it's just so much easier than living in a big mansion. For me, I'm only responsible for everything within these walls, and there's nothing outside that I need to take care of. Any maintenance or any issues, that's all left up to the apartment complex, and that, you guys, saves me a lot of time and stress. The average home costs $1 per year for every square foot in maintenance. So a pretty big 3,000 square foot home should cost you about $3,000 a year just in maintenance. Living in an apartment, I have none of those costs, and that saves me a lot. You just don't need to stretch your wallet to live somewhere super expensive. I think the rule is generally you can spend about a third to 40% of your income on your rent or your house. As you make more and more money, you don't need to follow those rules, because if you spend that much of your income, then you're probably living in a house that's way bigger than you'd actually need. 10.9 million renters spent more than 50% of their income on housing in 2018. So yeah, personally, as I made more money, my requirement for luxury went up a little bit, but not too much. Essentially, I'm paying a little bit more than what I was paying when I was making 20 times less income. And that actually makes me very happy, because it means I'm less stressed and have more money to invest and spend on other things. Next up is new cars. Historically, new cars are just a terrible use of your money. After 1 year, your car is on average worth about 20% less. And people have really caught on to this, right? Used vehicle sales were actually double the number of new vehicle sales from 2012 to 2018. You might be seeing that there's a trend where I don't like spending money on things that don't go up in value. And it's the same thing with the type of car that I drive. A good rule of thumb is you want to try and buy a car near the bottom of the depreciation curve. And generally this happens about 3 to 5 years after its initial sale. For example, instead of buying a brand new 2020 Escalade for well over $100,000, you can buy a 2017 Escalade for pennies on the dollar. And this is even with today's super inflated used car prices. I will say that the only exception to this is with exotic cars. Right now it's crazy, but if you have the connections to buy certain exotic cars, you will make an instant profit on them because they actually sell for more on the used car market than brand new. This won't apply to too many of you guys, so let's actually just talk about the game plan for most cars. You want to buy slightly used so you don't get hit with too much depreciation, or you'll want to buy used cars that you think will actually appreciate in value. For example, my 2010 Ferrari 458 has actually held up really well. It's only depreciated about 2% each year, which actually beats most high-priced cars that lose between 5 to 10%. That's the reason why I bought it. It was literally because I thought that the value of this car would go up since it is a classic, and just because I could maybe go out and buy a brand new supercar doesn't mean I'm going to, because I know that in the long run, my cost of ownership for owning this Ferrari is going to be much, much less. So yeah, for most people, don't buy new cars, just buy used cars. Let someone else take the hit on the depreciation. And by doing that, you're gonna lose as little money as possible while driving an awesome car. So the next thing we're talking about is highly depreciating assets. Honestly, I just hate buying anything that goes down in value. But unfortunately, most things are at least some type of depreciating asset. For me, I'm at the wealth level where I can spend money on depreciating assets, but I can't just do it in the absolute best conscience until I have a net worth of maybe $15 to $20 million. At that level, I feel like you can buy anything without caring about the depreciation, because if you are, then you're just wasting your mental brain power. But for me, at this present net worth level, I really am trying to get to that next level. And to do so, I need to, prioritize buying things that help make me money instead of, lose value. We already talked about the whole eating at expensive restaurants thing, but yeah, I view super expensive meals as a big depreciating asset. You eat it once, you enjoy it, and then it's gone forever. So for me, this is the framework I use for depreciation. All that matters is the present cost to you minus the cost when you end up selling it, and this is your cost to own something. This formula has saved me so many times. For example, when I bought my laptop, I was deciding between a MacBook and a PC laptop. And obviously I went the Mac route, and that's because, you buy it for a little bit more, but you can actually recover most of that money when you sell it. So your actual cost to own that more expensive MacBook is actually less than most PC laptops. It's the same thing for an iPhone versus an Android, or a Ferrari versus a BMW, or a Rolex versus Timex. Most people think that if the initial purchase price is high, it's gonna cost a lot more to own that thing. And that can be farther from the truth. Yes, it does tie up money that you can't invest, but it definitely is better than being in a checking account not making any money. Because with these items, you can actually use it and enjoy them. So yeah, I really avoid these highly depreciating assets by running this formula, learning about what things depreciate less, and then gravitating towards that. So in conclusion, you guys, I want to leave you with this message. Stay humble, avoid lifestyle inflation by cutting out unnecessary expenses, and you'll be able to not only build wealth, but keep it. I hope you guys found this video helpful. These are just the things that I stopped buying as I started making more money. And yeah, I hope this video can sort of inspire you to spend less and save more. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to share it with a friend, and also like and subscribe for more content just like this. I make a ton of videos about personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.